Hey everybody, back with another video. I've been wanting to put out this video for quite some time now and kind of developed a list of what I wanted to talk about. So I broke it down into five main topics, and then I'll kind of have some subtopics underneath those and some ideas. First thing is when we look at Madden or we look at college football and we look at EA, a lot of the times people are frustrated. If you look at the reviews, a lot of the same complaints. We all know the complaints for EA, specifically for Madden and soon to be for college football. And I just kind of wanted to talk about who's at fault. In my opinion, EA certainly has a hand in the who's at fault, but realistically, I mean, they're just a business, right? So they're a publicly traded company, and I've worked at companies larger. I'm currently employed for a company almost 2 decades larger than that. I've worked at other large companies, and if you know anything about large companies, you know that when you get to be certain size, things kind of just become like an algorithm. So the way EA, and again, this is just my speculation, my personal opinion, and how I feel I've seen, things go for the last decade with the Madden football, etc., is that they see profits regardless. So okay, it costs this much. We'll put the same platform, update the roster, and change the menu a little bit, and people still buy it the following year. Sure, it got bad reviews, not that great of rating, but at the end of the day, for the amount of effort that they had to put into it versus how much they were able to capitalize off of it, I'm sure the shareholders and all that are doing just fine, right? It's they're making profits, lots of profits off of this. And so, although initially I think a lot of people want to blame EA and for stuff like this, but to me, I think personally, I think the problem, if we were to try to actually fix what's going on, is we have to hold the NFL accountable. They're the ones that signed the exclusive deal back in what was like 2000 and let's see, 2005 probably, because I remember 2K5 was out and I was pretty good at that game, and I was really excited for 2K6 to come out. And turns out, I think the release date, and this is just going off my memory, I just remember the game was about to come out within like a month or so, maybe not even that long. Like it was like on the, like they must have had 2K. There's probably a copy of 2K6 somewhere that was never released, because I think they were that close to releasing. And then EA dropped the news bombshell that, oh, NFL exclusive rights. So although I would love to hold EA accountable and work with EA on making the game better, I've submitted tons of bug submissions over the years with Madden. I mean, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and I just don't seem to get anywhere. So I think, in my opinion, the NFL is where we have to go as a community and hold them accountable for their exclusive rights. I mean, it's a monopoly. At the end of the day, EA is only going to try so hard, right? When they're the only competitors, it's pretty sad. You put in you bring back 2K. I mean, just imagine what would happen if other games were able to create football games with the ideas and stuff like that. It would force competition, and what is it, the saying, right? With competition breeds whatever. You guys know the line. So that's the first topic. So work with NFL, specifically probably Roger Goodell. Second thing that I think needs to be done in order for EA/NFL to fix this franchise, whether it be Madden or college football. They do try on some years, and they do some cool things. I mean, we all know that's why we're so frustrated, because it's so close to being great, but then you get dropped halfway and it's just like, it's either incomplete or it's, it's buggy or it's, stuff that just, it's so close, but the graphics are great. And, the fact that we can do all these things that are amazing with it is why we still stick with it, in hopes that they come through to fix it. So my suggestion to EA, they don't want to do the work, right? They just want to collect the profits. Okay, well then open up the mods. Now I know that there are some mods out there. I've done them. I can't remember the name of the big one. There's so many things projects I'm part of at my work and other things with VR and other games that I can't remember the exact name, but it's super popular. I've done that. It is kind of cool to kind of adjust the sliders, try to make it more realistic, um, but it's not as robust as I've seen other things. So, like a perfect example of a really strong modded game that it just makes the game so much better would be like an example would be like Farm Simulator for PC. I mean, I know there's mods for the console, um, and I know that that's probably good too. But what's amazing about I've noticed about that is that not only can I go out and usually find a mod that I like. So, for example, like, oh, I really don't like, like in the old school days, I don't like that there's no seasons, right? And it's like, it'd be cool if the, leaves changed and, it wasn't just always springtime. And sure enough, group probably got together, or one guy, whoever knows, came out with a mod called Seasons. And I'm not sure if that's the original name. And eventually, they worked on it and people downloaded it and people modified it, got better. Um, Eventually, Giant Software incorporated that into the game. So my suggestion to EA is that if you want to continue just to sit back and be lazy, which is fine, and not hire enough people. I mean, obviously the EA team with Madden and stuff like that, you can just tell that they're understaffed. I mean, they're just they probably need 4 or 5 times the amount of people taking care of all the requests, bugs coming in, working on the game. And well, why would they want to do that? They're a publicly run company, and as far as I know, and uh, it's working. Don't fix it if it's not broken. So you think about that, and another cool thing, we're going back to the giant farming simulator mods, is that they're all pretty much easily modified through a text file. So even if I download a tractor or some sort of like buying, silo station, and I'm not happy with the capacity, I can easily just open up, I think they're, XML file with Notepad or, whatever, and change the how many liters the silo holds, to my liking. Or I can try to make it more realistic, where they have like a gas pump that, someone actually came out and calculated an accurate, gallons per whatever. So the gas, fills up accurately instead of in like 2 seconds fill up the whole tractor. So the sky's the limits when it comes to mods on Farming Simulator. Maps, I mean, literally every season that they put out, hundreds of maps, hundreds of different vehicles, tractors, tools. I mean, really, the sky's the limit. And they make it really easy. Even like a novice can go on there and modify it and tweak it and tune it and change the miles per hour, or how much horsepower the tractor has. Or at Madden, their mods, it's not like that. It's the structure I'm looking for is more like an open source kind of thing, right? Where it's very open and easy. And what I've seen from the mods, it's not like that. So that would be my suggestion for EA if they want to continue business as usual, but also make their fans happy. Put the work on the consumers, right? There's people out there that want to tweak and tune and make the game better. Let them do it. And then guess what? The following year, EA, you can apply those to the base game, and that's how you can make your game better. And at literally no cost to you. So yeah. All right. Third thing on my list is gameplay. And I had This is where between gameplay, Dynasty, and Road to Glory, I had a list of like 50 things, and it was just too long. One thing I noticed in the gameplay that I think needs to be incorporated into Madden as well as college football is the fact of like analytics. Every time you watch football, you hear analytics. It would be nice to have some sort of like percentage bar or like maybe, I mean, there's so many creative ideas you could do with that. I mean, it doesn't have to like be super crazy, but also having the CPU like the CPU will kick or punt, on the 45-yard line where they're almost at or half field, down by 17 and, 3 minutes left in the third quarter. It's like college football, they're pretty aggressive, right? So what are the analytics for going for it on fourth down, right? And just maybe show you stuff like that and kind of make it immersive and cool. That would be one suggestion I would have for the gameplay. Another one is I don't really see aggressive play. I kind of talked about that. I don't really see aggressive play from the CPU a whole lot, right? I haven't really been seeing any fake punts. Just like going for it on fourth down, trick plays, just the college was very aggressive. And I'm just not seeing that reflected in college football 25. I think that the accelerated clock is kind of a weak solution. I get it, and it's kind of useful. You kind of have to do it if you want to play realistic. So, like for the way that I play, is that everything is realistic as I can get it. So I'm playing 15-minute quarters, right? I'm not skipping anything. And what I noticed is that sure, accelerated clock for me is I try to it drains down the clock, but where the CPU it doesn't do it. So it's like I'm doing it and they're not, and that's just not how it goes, right? They're not trying to run down the clock in situations where they're ahead and giving me fewer chances to come back. I just think that there's a better solution. Real briefly, I'm going to talk about just general. So we talked about gameplay. I'm just going to talk about some just general suggestions that I would have to help improve the game. And one of them is that did I really need to have a PlayStation 5 or whatever the new Xbox is in order to play college football 25? I personally don't think so. I mean, looking at the game graphics, like, yeah, it's great, but are you telling me that my PS4 couldn't handle this? So what you're doing is you're forcing, average people in the world that may not be able to afford a PS5, the inability to go out and play this game. I mean, I really feel they're kind of being pushed into that, and I'm not sure it's completely necessary based off of the graphics from what I've seen. I'm also a PC gamer, and there's no PC version for this. The point that I have here is that I have submitted a lot of requests to EA for Madden and college football, and I never hear back ever. And that's how I have a feeling that they're completely understaffed. Um, Even though some of my suggestions go into the game, I feel like I bought this game, I bought college football pre-sale, and literally at midnight that night I started playing it and started creating a list of stuff, right? So one of the first things I did, I submitted quite a few was the mass substitutions, right? Because I was familiar with the old NCAA game back, NCAA 14, 13, 12, whatever, where you could mass substitute offense and defense. So one of the first suggestions I did was that, along with many other things, and that one seemed to stick. Now, whether or not someone else did it and they picked that one, great. I don't really care about that, but I never heard anything on it. I had zero replies. I had, I don't know how many likes I had on it, but no feedback whatsoever. No closed case. We did this. It's just a one-way street when it comes to submitting stuff with EA, and I have a feeling that the people on the back end are probably just overloaded and just don't have time. So the next thing on my list for improvements is specifically in regards to Dynasty mode. Um, I have quite a few on here, so I'm going to try to make it kind of just as high level and um, quickly as I can. I may skip some of them. So one of the things I noticed with the Dynasty mode that there's no recruitment templates. So what I mean by that is that I like power backs. So, every season that I play, I have to go through and specifically sort out power backs. It would be nice to be able to have some assistance with recruiting and be able to give them a template. It's like if you're going to like recruit or help me recruit, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, a pocket passer, and a power back, running back. I'm looking for my middle linebacker. I want it to be a field general. Kind of that sort of thing where it just helps you go through the thousands of players each season you have to do through recruiting. The recruiting, there's some, the filters are pretty weak. You try to search for like, okay, show me all the 4 stars, blah, 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 the top 3 schools, and then it just resets. It's like every time you have to go back and do it, and the filters themselves are pretty weak. I haven't done it in a while, but I remember there's other things that I wanted to be able to do for like, okay, show me this, and then also show me this, and it just doesn't have that ability. It's like a very basic filter. One of the things I noticed is that I got frustrated with this game a lot of times, and so I tried different things to make it fun. Um, I got sick of playing and drafting. I got sick of drafting offensive players, and so I'm like, well, I just want to focus on the defense. So I was like, I would create a new coach. I just want to be defensive coordinator, and I still had to draft offensive players. And I'm not sure if defensive coordinator even gets to choose, but it would be nice to be able to like have their opinion. But there's really no reason that a defensive coordinator will ever be selecting offensive players. At least that's in my knowledge. I could be wrong about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think defensive coordinator should be selecting, who the quarterback is for the following year or whatever. So recruitment, and I know that they just released a patch, and I haven't really, a pretty big update came out, and um, I've been kind of lagging on the video, mostly out of frustration for how many things I had. Like to me, like the game for how many things on the list, it's like, why even bother, right? Like I just find something else to play. But I felt like it's important to try to get this out there, and I just feel like recruitment is generally boring and not immersive, right? The older versions, you could do stuff and you could interact, and this is just pretty boring. I feel like there should be different levels, right, where you can kind of set like how much time you want to spend recruiting. Because as you guys know, as you get through the seasons, by your fifth, it's like, okay, it just drains on you a little bit much. It would be nice to be able to maybe tone back the amount of involvement you have, or make it so immersive that you just love doing it. The visits with players in Dynasty, you're limited to like 4 a week. Is that a realistic thing? I don't think so. And the reason I say that, and again, I could be wrong about this, but it just seems like they just create arbitrary things to make the game like harder than it needs to be. So Alabama this year in college football, I think the game against Georgia, Alabama had 100 recruits at that game. So what's the deal with 4 max visits? In Dynasty, where players leave because they're upset or whatever, and I get that, but there's like no immersion, right? I mean, you can't really talk to them. They're not really telling you a whole lot. They kind of give you a bar in the season, like they're upset, but why can't you talk to them? And, like the old version, you could make promises. I kind of miss that. And and again, that might be a slider, or not really a slider, but, have 3 different levels: easy, medium, and hard, or whatever, or easy, medium, and detailed is probably a better word. And where you can make promises to these players and you're held accountable, right? It's like hey, I understand you're upset. I promise you, because like some of these players, like all red shirt, and I really am planning on playing them the following year, but they leave. And it's like, I should be able to tell them, like, hey, you're going to be starting next year and give them a promise and have them stick around. It's really frustrating because you spend a lot of time trying to recruit these and then they bail after the first season of being redshirted. One of the things in Madden is that you have the arrangements in your positions where it's like you have a power rusher, you have like you have the run stopping defensive tackle and the 3-4. You have that here, but to my knowledge, there's no way to tell what your scheme is set up for. So when you notice, it's really frustrating is that what you notice, and someone's probably figured it out. I didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to dissect, but when you try to, if you notice you're changing your like left and right outside linebacker, which it always seems to get mixed up, right? You have your left outside linebacker that you signed, and they always sign him to the right, and your right, they always sign to the left, and it's like, okay. But you don't really know, and you'll notice that the rating all of a sudden jumps up. It's like you just assigned through the depth chart the other linebacker, and he went from an 82 to an 87 or even higher just by making that switch. And it's like, huh? Like, how am I supposed to see what the right outside linebacker? There's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. But what his skill is, right? Is he a pass coverage? Like, what is that scheme supposed to be? And I don't know, right? And it's just frustrating. Another thing too is that if you modify the right outside linebacker and you change into a left outside backer, it will just like drop the rating. And if you go back, it won't go back, which is a bug. And it's like, it's just things like that that just make me think of like, why do I do this every year, right? I mean, every year I deal with stuff like this, whether it be Madden and now college football. And it's like, can I just move on? Can 2K Sports come out with a game, please? Another thing I noticed in Dynasty is that player lock. You can lock your player, but it gets reset because that player gets substituted out, which is just, again, a bug, in my opinion. And it's like, no, I don't want to lock my player to this player, Johnson. I'm locking myself to this position. So whoever's in middle linebacker in a 4-3, I'm that guy, right? There's only one middle linebacker, and that's me. And I don't care who's in the position. That's what I want to play. Stop doing and moving me around, and I got to figure it out, and it's just really frustrating. I think it would be nice to be able to adjust, and this probably goes not just for Dynasty, but just regular gameplay, and I have it in the wrong section, but it would be nice to be able to adjust the skill level separately. I like playing on Heisman, the hardest level, and but I don't like kicking on the hardest level. So it would be kind of nice to be able to, again, the gameplay is on Heisman, kicking is on, pro. It's like I'm sick of missing sometimes I'm like playing late at night. It's like I don't want to have to hit it just perfectly with my controller, like for a pretty routine 28 yard field goal. And the game that comes to mind is the MLB The Show baseball game. I recently started playing an older version of that, 16, so it's pretty old. But man, you can set everything, and it's not super complicated and clunky. They actually did a phenomenal job on it. But you can do things like that, and you can really tune the game to your liking. And I think that they could follow suit and make the game a lot better if they did things like that. Sliders. This is a topic that just frustrates me. Sliders, and specifically Madden sliders. I'm not talking about any other game here. I'm talking about Madden and college football. The slider thing has been broken forever. And they keep on building on it, and they keep using the same foundation. And it's just broken. It's always been broken. It's never going to get fixed. And that's basically what they do in patches. We adjust the sensitivity adjust the slider for pass blocking. And it's like, dude, no, like I don't want to be in there, like, because you have to play many games in order to figure out, and then basically all those stats are skewed. And so you start a new franchise, new season. For people that like statistics and realistic, I kind of have that mentality where it's like, I don't want my first season where my running back has 25 touchdowns in 3 games to realize that, the run defense needs to be adjusted. It's not my job to adjust that. Come out with a base and fix it where everything is as realistic as you possibly can. I mean, they already have it. If you fast simulate a season, the statistics are like spot on of what they probably should be. And so they kind of already have that algorithm. But when you actually play the game and stuff like that, it's all over the place. And then they adjust the sliders, and then an update comes out, and then it's like, okay, well, what's interceptions out? Now, I mean, before I thought that interceptions were too frequent, and so I dropped it from 50 to 35. Okay, well, they just released a patch where they changed it, and they don't even tell you. And that goes back to another thing with the gameplay in Madden, and as far as like them being responsive back to you, is that when they do release a patch, they don't even really tell you what's going on. Very high level, and they always tell you full patch notes will be released later. And guess what? It's never released. And if it is, it's still vague. We need specifics. And the slider mentality where I have to go in there and fix it for every single patch and it's just, that's not my job, dude. Like that's your job. And sure, you should still have the ability to do it, but the sliders is just inherently broken. I remember specifically on Madden where you would go for for roughing the passer. It was the default is 50, obviously on all of these. If you went from 50 to 51, it like multiplied it by like 1,000%. It just went up one click, and now like every fourth play is a roughing the passer. So, that's just the kind of stuff that we've been dealing with for a decade now. Like I remember in Madden, Aaron Rodgers one season threw, and I'll have to find the image, it's kind of hilarious, but like Aaron Rodgers threw like, I think it was like 55 interceptions doing the slow sim, right? Like just doing like this with, Green Bay, I think he was on at the time. He threw like 55 interceptions. And, you do the fast sim, and then same exact season, you don't save that. You just, exit out, and I don't want to save any of those results. Play the whole season, 2D sim, fast sim, and Aaron Rodgers only threw 5 interceptions for the whole season. So they're using different algorithms for the simulations, and I get it's complicated. I do get it, but other people figure this out. And I've been submitting it for years, showing them that like, this is not realistic, and it's frustrating. Another thing that NCAA older games used to have is a coach mode. It's kind of similar to this, but I could actually each play would be slow sim like this. But when this running back right here, if the play's over, I have the option to pick the next play. And in this case, I don't. Games they each year had a coach mode, and they got rid of it, which I knew they were going to do because I knew they were going to just take the model. When this game came out, I knew they were going to just take Madden and then convert it over, and Madden doesn't have it. So, they'll just take, the foundation of Madden and then just kind of change it for football, for college football. In Dynasty, the depth chart needs work. It's horrendous. If you look at that, it's like you never know what running back you're going to get. You have like the third down running back, which is like 3 RB, and then you have a power running back, and then on top of that, you have like a regular starting running back. So like it's confusing. Sometimes you have a running back in your number one position, but because they're not set as the third running back or the power running back, they never even play. And it's like, it's a terrible way to do this. And who really knows what an RRE is? I mean, you know what a right end is, but it's like, what are these positions? And obviously I know what like a slot cornerback is, or a slot receiver, or nickel, but it's like it's very confusing to figure out which players are going to be out in the field starting and which players are going to be substituted in when they're fatigued. Another thing that kind of brings me to that is that um, there's no way to easily sub in your backup running back. In college football and leagues, even in the pros, a lot of teams will use two running backs. And I don't want to fatigue out my first running back, right? I want to spread it over evenly. And I want to run with my number one running back maybe two times or three times. And then on the fourth time, I want my running back number two to come in. But the way that this is designed is that, oh, no, we're going to use your running back one until play 20, his 26th run, and then he'll be subbed out. And yeah, you can adjust the sliders and fatigue and substitutions, but it just never works out the way that I want it to work out. And it's like I'm almost positive it was the NCAA. It might have been 2K Sports, but in one of those, it was very simple to just pick the second running back for that play. Like this play, I want this play, but I want this back. Another thing with going into recruiting is that there's no way to you fast forward a week or so. It would be nice to be able to clear the points. I'm not saying clear the board and remove all your players, but sometimes early on in like the week 2 or week 3, you just kind of want like your initial touch out to those players is out there, and you kind of just want to clear all the points and start over. But what you have to do is you have to pick each player, go from 50 down to 0, next player. And you have like 30 players to do that for, and it's like there should just be an easy, simple button that just clear the points. Like put everyone back at 0. Okay, now I have my 900 points I can allocate, and then I can just do that for that week. Another thing too is that along the same lines as that is mass scholarship. The next one is the road to glory. And man, what a mess. Let's just give this road to glory, a shot. Let's see what's going on. And that's where I noticed that you can't even red shirt yourself, right? You can't even say, oh, I'm only a 3-star, just red shirt in my freshman year. Let me get my schooling done. So road to glory, man, is incomplete to the max. So first of all, the first thing that surprised me is that I can't even choose any position. It's like, huh? Okay, I have to be a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, linebacker, defensive back. Okay, well, I like the linebacker, and so that was the first one I did, but I found it to be buggy, and the camera view is different, which is fine, but you should be able to go back to the default camera view. I'm used to playing in Dynasty mode. Don't switch the camera view without giving me the option to you can switch it if you want, and I appreciate that they do that or give you the option, but don't force me into it. And it's odd, and one of the things I don't like is that in Dynasty mode, there's been plays with that camera where I would have made the interception, but in their mode, I don't make the interception, and that's where I'm like, okay, well, I would have intercepted that. Guaranteed. I've done it a million times, and I can't seem to do that same interception when I'm basically jumping the slant route or something in their camera mode. And just give me the option of going back to the normal one if I want. Which brings me to my point, though. So I got sick of that because I couldn't even stop a pass, even though I'm literally sitting in front of the route, and the ball goes right by my head, and I'm hitting triangle or whatever. It doesn't even. I even turned on the ball hawk and everything, and it's just the ball goes right by me, and it's like, okay, this is ludicrous. I'm not going to do that. Just put me in as a defensive end, and I'm just going to sack the quarterback. Oh wait, there is no defensive end. What? There's no defensive tackle. What? I can't be a defensive end and just focus on sacking the quarterback in road to glory. I don't understand that at all. Why that position is missing? Why any of those positions are missing? I can't be an outside linebacker. I can't be a tight end. I can't be a safety. It's so incomplete. The overall immersion, this is just a comment I got, and I agree. The immersion in Road to Glory is terrible. And the funny thing is that the person on Reddit was, I completed a whole 4 year service to my university, and then I graduated, and it didn't give me anything. It's just like it's over. So I had no idea, like if I was even drafted. I never saw like my career stats. It's like, it's just okay, you're done. Like, what was the point of that? Like, I just spent 4 seasons, trying to build this player up, and it's just like, okay, that was your last game. Like, nothing, just done. Like, move on. The positions can't really be tuned. If you notice, you can pick the archetype for like, let's just say a receiver. I can pick like a physical receiver, but the attributes are the same for that, right? So it's like I can't adjust um, the attributes, which I think like usually what they do is they give you like a bank of 50 points and you can apply them however you want. So in my example, I was trying to recreate a famous NFL player, um, and same height, same weight, and what I thought would be the same attributes. I'm not able to do that. I'm stuck with whatever attributes they give me, and it's really hard. I noticed to kind of tune your player in the Road to Glory. And again, this if you're going to play this, just don't even play Road to Glory. I mean that's basically my position right now. The practice again, Road to Glory is so broken. The practice is misleading. It doesn't do anything. It just builds trust. It's like, okay, well, I'm already a starting player now. Okay, so what? I mean, it's not increasing your skill at all. It's just increasing the trust, and I already have great trust with my players and so it's like it's just pointless. And you can simulate it, and you can't even really see what happens when you simulate. Did I get better? Did I get more? There's nothing. And then if you do the routines yourself, the workouts yourself, you can get the gold, and it's like, okay, well, I should be done. I should get some points for that. Now you just get trust. I know you scored, I know you had 5 forced fumbles, but no, just we trust you more. When you try to do like an audible in Road to Glory, it's always the same play. They might have fixed that. I saw something where they updated, but I thought that audibles or the audibles were configurable. I thought that was for Dynasty Mode. I'm not sure they fixed that for Road to Glory. But if you try to do like an audible in Road to Glory, you have 3 choices, and even if you pick that, I think it only lets you pick one. It's always the same play. I don't even know why I'm doing Road to Glory. There's so many things broken. It's like, okay, another example is that when you're running with your wide receiver and you're going out for a route, the quarterback may not throw it to you. And so all of a sudden you're still running and he didn't throw it to you, but you're still running a route. But because he didn't throw it to you, you run into the defender, and now it's like, not offensive pass interference, but some sort of flag, some sort of penalty. And it's like, I'm just trying to run a route. Like, I'm not trying to block in the back or something. Right? It's just horrendous. I don't even know why I'm doing Road to Glory. I guess I'm just maybe looking out for people that are even contemplating. So another thing is that I'm like, again, I was trying to recreate a physical wide receiver and Larry Fitzgerald, 6'3" receiver. But because of my attributes as that, I couldn't even get past the initial defender before my quarterback threw the ball. So it's like I'm not super fast off the line, but I have other things. I'm tall and this, and it's like my experience is that I couldn't even get, like you have like a second before your quarterback wants to throw you the ball, and it's like I'm not even past the defender yet. Like give me a second, and I'm going to try to get open, where you can, one-on-one situation, 50-50 ball. It doesn't work. Play actions in Road to Glory end up in a sack every time. The lost yard penalty. So if you lose like a yard, you get like penalized points. Lost points, like what I mean by that is like on your individual play points, let's say that you lost 50 points for a fumble, right? Would be a great example. And you reverse the call, you challenge the call and it gets reversed, like you don't get those points back. I mean, just don't play Road to Glory. Thank you. That's it. If you go ahead and comment, feedback is always encouraged. And thank you for watching. Take care.